Hello, everyone. This is Professor Simpson. I just wanted to do a conclusion for this topic this week. Sometimes I like to do a visual verbal communication. I think that's a little bit easier for people to comprehend at times. We had great discussions this week. You guys really hit the nail on the head with seeing what pre modern historiography was like. So I just wanted to give you kind of an overview verbally and visually, maybe to bring this together for you. The hardest part of looking at this time period when we're looking at like a historiography sense is the fact you have to take all your modern beliefs of history and historiography and throw them out. You have to think of it this way: nothing exists yet. It's zero. It's black. Okay, there is no history. So then you have to start, which we didn't really talk about with Homer, who kind of does the poems and those kinds of writings. Um, but where we did pick up was Herodotus, and this is the book I was mentioning in here, with Herodotus, and his argument is he's the father of history. And basically, as I said and was talking about with you guys, is he's called that because he is the first to write it down. He travels, and if you read that text I gave somewhere down the road, I understand you probably don't have time to read it now, but at some point, if you become really into history, he's kind of interesting to read about because he travels all over his known world and just writes everything down. Anything everybody tells him, he actually just writes it down. And his goal was not, as we would look today, to look for a truth. It wasn't to even study history. It was to write everything down to create history, okay, to create, in a sense, a starting point. And that's what Herodotus is going to, he's really known for and kind of needed to be known about in this study of historiography is he writes history. He gives us the start point. The second part of this week was pre-modernism, and I'm telling you, this it's a big jump, okay, in this course because it's fast paced. But I talked about Ibn Khaldun. All right, this is the text that I wrote a review on, um, right here with Robert Irwin. Really good. And then another one is Montagu. Okay, this is another really good text, kind of from the time period. Both of them are looking at things, from the pre-modern sense. This is where we actually kind of get the beginnings of historiography. They are looking for truths. They are actually looking at written documents and trying to determine something, trying to figure things out. Um, Ibn Khaldun is looking at the Muslim faith, okay, and looking through Northern Africa and the Middle East and kind of exploring those things and those ideals. Whereas Montagu is about a French village, during the insurrection and all those kinds of things. And it is once again using church records to try to develop a truth on how this village was. The argument is from these facts, this is what life was like in this village. So what we're seeing now with pre-modernism is they're trying to determine a truth. They're trying to take history or written facts and say and make an argument and say this is what it was like. That's pre-modernism, and that's kind of where, we're going to start picking up. Because after pre-modernism, now we have some historians that are going to start establishing themselves. So then we really begin to look at the change of study over time, looking at historians, which is modernism, which we'll talk about this week. So coming back to, the medieval time period here, I had asked everybody basically the same question. Almost all of these guys come out of the field of religion. You guys really hit some nails on the head with the philosophical beliefs of humanism and going away from religion and challenging things. Once again, that's the look for truth. They're trying to study and find truth. But even though, I mean, even so, these guys are all still typically from a religious background. And the big question is why? The reason why is in religion, these people were the ones who were taught to read and write. If you think of the time period, not very many people were literate. Not many people could read or write. But if you were from a monk or a priest or from a religious background, you had to be able to read and write to study whichever your scripture was at that time, or to communicate to your congregations, things like that. You had to be able to read and write. So a lot of the early historians or people who are going to try to discover these truths are actually going to be people out of the religious faith, only really because they knew how to read and write. Um, and we're going to get the Reformation and all those things once again come out of the religious background because those were the people who could read and write and make arguments. I hope this kind of helps out and kind of brings a closure to this pre-modernism and kind of where it started and where we're going to get to. In modernism now, things are going to get really crazy. All right, for history, history is going to move rapidly, especially after World War II, and just kind of explode into what's going on. All right, so we're looking for truth, but we have too many truths. And historians are going to begin to specialize in fields. And one thing that's not in this course, but I'm going to give to you, is something called postmodernism. And we're going to talk about that maybe next topic. I'm going to add it in. And that's kind of where we're at today. We're beyond modernism. We're heading into postmodernism. And then where does the future hold? So I'm hoping to give you those tidbits maybe next week. All right. This week we'll focus on history going bananas. All right. And on all these different interpretations and perspectives and who's right, who's wrong, and everybody fighting. It's going to be very intriguing. Again, I hope this helps. I hope you're enjoying the course. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me.